Hey, Slippery Rock Alliance Church friends and family, I hope that you're doing well today. I'm coming at you with another devotion from James chapter 4. We're finishing up the chapter and moving into chapter 5 tomorrow. One of the things that we're going to look at here on the heels of his warnings against worldliness, in which he called us to get right with God and get right with our neighbors, is the fragility of life. Specifically, how fragile life is when it's not built upon Christ and upon God. And so James 4:13-17 is going to teach us these things. Let's look at verse 13. Verse 13 says this: "Come now, you who say, 'Today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes." James uses the illustration of some merchants who have plans for their lives, that they're going to go into this town or that town, they're going to stay for a year and make lots of money, right? And then he asks them this question. He says, but wait a second, what is your life? For you are a mist that appears for just a short time. You cannot control what the next day brings. And so what I learned here is that earthly life is fleeting. We need to understand that though we have lots of grand and lofty plans for our lives, the one who is ultimately in control of our life is the Lord, and we cannot control a single moment. We may perish tomorrow, and it's out of our control. However, he kind of makes a turn here, and in verse 15 he says, instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. He gives a theoretical response to how we ought to live in this world. Rather than saying, these are my plans, we ought to ask, Lord, are these your plans for our lives? If you will this, we'll go do this. We'll go and we'll do business here or do business there. However, the foundation of their plans is God. It is Jesus Christ. And so what I learned here is that God is to be our permanent foundation. No matter what we do in this life, we are to do it because it's what the Lord has led us to do. If our lives are built on the Lord, we will always be doing the things that He has called us to do. Then he goes on in verse 16 and he says this. He says, as it is, you boast in your arrogance. Such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. He calls out these merchants who have these plans and says, you're boasting in arrogance about what you are able to do. And he then says that their boasting is evil because the right thing to do is what the Lord wants you to do. And so he says that if you know what the right thing to do is and you don't do it, then you're sinning. And what I learned here is that the failure to do what you know is right is wrong. We are to be looking to the Lord for our guidance and for our wisdom. Over and over again, He has told us in chapter 1, if you lack wisdom, ask the Lord for it, and He'll give it generously without reproach. Then, in the previous section, we are to receive wisdom from above, God's wisdom. We're not to live out of our own plans, but we're to understand God's wisdom and live according to His plan for our lives. So there's a few ways I would encourage you to live as a result of what He's taught us here. The first way I would challenge you is to live for your future hope. Build your life on Christ and build your life upon the rock. Listen for the voice of the Lord, and as He leads you, go in the direction that He has called you to. The second way I would challenge you is to build your life on God's truth. It is God's wisdom that gives us the appropriate direction for our life. And if we're not sure what we should do, we should turn and ask Him for the wisdom that we need. And I find that God speaks most clearly through His Spirit as He gives us peace in a certain direction. if we have chaos, we should consider the fact that maybe the Lord is not allowing us to have peace to go in a certain direction. Let's listen for the voice of the Lord. Let's listen to His truth and gain wisdom from Him so we know how we ought to live our lives. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like below. Share it as many times as you can with people that you care about. You take care. Have a great week. We'll see you later.